It is almost 10 years since our last encounter, when my chat with the natural historian followed an interview by a journalist from one of the now extinct Lads magazines. My counterpart asked the esteemed broadcaster whether he'd rather be groomed by a woman or a gorilla. When we meet in central London, I remind Sir David of the interview. What did I say? I can't remember. He says, with a glint in his eyes. I reply, it was a closely guarded secret, as I reported at the time. Sir David chuckles away and indeed is in a very cheerful frame of mind. He doesn't seem at all like a man of 91 years of age. Indeed, he seems younger than he did 10 years ago. We're talking about his compelling new one-off film to be screened tonight, entitled Attenborough and the Sea Dragon. It's ancient natural history, taking us back 200 million years to interpret the huge fossil of an ichthyosaur, or giant sea dragon, which has been unearthed on Dorset's Jurassic coast. There's an intriguing murder mystery too, with the presenter taking on the role of detective. There's also a rather touching conclusion to the film, which was something of a passion project. As you know, I've made a few programs about fossils over the years, such as one on the biggest dinosaurs ever discovered, which I did in Patagonia. But one of the problems in making them is that the digging out takes several months, and you can't go there for 6 months watching people digging out rock. So you have to be told when they find something, but by that time, a week later or something, you're playing catch up. Just pretend that you don't know that. So that spoils it. What I wanted to do was to make a show about fossils which conveyed something of the excitement and uncertainty and the general feeling of the real excavation and risk. The project began when fossil hunter Chris Moore discovered the paddles of the dragon on the beach, but nothing else. Did Sir David seriously believe that he would come up with nothing? Of course. I did say to Chris, the paleontologist, now we want to be sure, you know. He said, yes, yes. Then Moore won permission to check the cliff above, and Sir David got more involved, and on standby, once the excavation into the cliffside in Dorset got underway properly. Sally, the director, says Sir David was the commander-in-chief on this one. She would snap her fingers and say, get Attenborough down here. He agrees the whole journey was very exciting, adding, we don't mention this in the program, but this is the second go. Previously, Chris did find some baby bones, and it was very exciting. Then I was busy talking with my contacts at the BBC, and we were all set to go when English Nature wouldn't give us a dig permit because the cliffs were in a crumbling condition and it wasn't safe, so you stand down and wait for another year or so. Then Chris rings me up again and says, I've found an amphibious paddle. I've never seen anything like it. I asked, is it the biggest ever? No, he said, but it is big. It's remarkable that anyone, even English Nature, could turn down David Attenborough, and that, having had the biggest television show in 2017 with Blue Planet 2, he still needs to pitch to the BBC. No, absolutely, of course you have to. And then Sally Thompson, whom I did Madagascar 2011 with, comes on board and takes charge. Along with the director, they struck on this notion of murder in the animal kingdom. Is this common? Sir David explains, well, murder, if you like, is journalistic license in this case. But it doesn't make the film any less enthralling, as the prime suspect appears to be an even bigger apex predator. He adds, one of the highlights of the program was hearing from a forensic expert on just how such a massive wound to this animal could have happened. But the story does evolve as you go along. Nobody knew what was going to happen. So what about those 91 years, which appear to have taken little toll on either him or his output for television? What's the secret? I say, get lucky. I mean, I know people who are younger than me who are in wheelchairs and who can't remember. Well, I can't remember things. But they really can't remember things. But for me it's not because of some magical diet or exercise, but just luck. And if you do have luck, it seems rather ungrateful not to take advantage of it. but does the work itself, and making these programs have a positive impact on him? You should ask a doctor about that, but I should think it's quite true. If you work in a job and they say, now, you're 60 and push off, you could end up sitting in a chair and dribbling. That's 30 years ago when I was 60. But the only regular exercise I do is shutting my eyes. I don't do anything special, diet or exercise. The TV landscape, I suggest, is changing before his eyes. With the BBC facing stiff competition from the internet, would he work for streaming channel Netflix? Yes, and there's a possibility I might. But only about conservation. If they wanted to do a show about conservation and they asked me to do it, I would think about it. There are certain things the BBC can, and can't do. But while the BBC is asking me to do things, I will do those. Attenborough and the Sea Dragon, BBC One, 8 p.m.